What's the first time that you did drugs? What was the context? Was it just like with friends? Was it alone? Where'd you get them, etc.?
Yeah, so we're, we're drinking. I don't really consider alcohol to be. So we're trying to get weed, and we couldn't, but we could get Valium. So we got that. That was like my first time taking anything. I was like the end of 2019.
Okay, so that's actually pretty recent. And that was like around the time you joined our drugs, wasn't it? I feel like no, you joined in like 2020, right?
Yeah, I joined like just before. I joined just before the lockdown in the UK started, like February. I think I joined that.
Yeah, because I remember when you joined. I remember just like seeing you out of nowhere. That was yeah. So like, what led you to join that server? Out of curiosity.
I just typed in drugs in the fucking thing, the invite thing.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that from a lot of people actually. And like, so it's safe to say then that at that point you were fairly like interested in like substance use then. So like I guess after that first experience, did you like kind of spiral into doing that more and more? So I guess like you had a positive time with drugs. So like, what
Yeah.
interested you about it? Like, what about using drugs in general just kind of like made you want to do it more? Like, what do you enjoy about it?
I don't know. I was just bored. I think I joined the drug server because I was going to do acid and I wanted to ask about it.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So I have to ask, did you get any good answers, or was it just idiots telling you like sending you gifts and shit?
No, it was just. I think I asked in the fucking. It was the Sykes Chow channel.
Oh
I think
god.
it was. I actually got like all right answers. I can't really remember them, but like it was like serious answers I got.
Well, that's good. That's good for you actually, because a lot of people, Sykes Chill especially, is not the best channel to go to. Not that you have any way of knowing that.
I went to Sykes Chow when I was trapping in acid the first time, and that wasn't good.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah.
I think that was the worst one.
Hi, Jahn.
Hi.
So what spiraled you into doing acid? Like, what was your progression? Like, what's kind of like what did you start doing? I mean, we know what you started doing, but like, I guess what are like the first drugs you tried? Then what did you like just continue doing? Like, what path did you follow?
I think it was Valium first, and then it was weed, and then
Really?
Oh, now we can hear you.
Okay, all right. John, the question was, you started off with weed, or no, you started off with Valium, then you went to weed. What led up to the acid is basically what I'm interested in.
I think it was just lockdown, and I was bored, and I started getting what the fuck's that cunt's name on YouTube?
Psyched substance?
Psyched substance.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it, bro.
And
all the homies love him.
I started watching his videos about it, and I was like, oh, I want to do that.
Just got curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of follow that path because his videos are they kind of do glorify substances a little bit, I think. But like,
I think his wife left him because he was doing like kratom or something, and then
yeah,
is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, kratom, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like his whole family kind of distanced themselves from him because his whole personality changed. Because he was like just doing absurd amounts of kratom every day, and he thought it wasn't affecting him.
No, because it was like it was doing shit, and it was like he sort of justify it because it was for his YouTube channel, and then it wasn't.
And it's how it happens, man. I've had shit like that happen to me before. I mean, y'all remember my phenibut phase? That was pretty gay. I mean, it was like, I was like, oh, it's for my anxiety, but I mean, it was helping my anxiety, but it was also like changing my entire personality and the way I acted and making me do stupid shit like interacting with Satan and shit. So, not literal Satan, for people watching, a e-girl named Satan, who I regret talking to. Anyway, but so John, was it like easy for you to like just find the shit that you were looking for? Like you just saw psyched substance and went out and just found somebody that got you acid, no problem?
Yeah, it was really. I already had like people for acid and stuff. I just didn't buy it. I just added them when I started smoking weed, and I got off them.
So like in Scotland, do you think there's like a big drug culture that you see? I mean, I know I've seen train spotting, all right, so I'm a bit of an expert. I know there's a lot of heroin there, right? That's like literally the only thing I know. Besides that, is there like a big scene there of like a lot of people doing drugs, or is it like kind of a taboo thing still?
No, it's more like sad than that, because you take the train into Glasgow and you go out on the street and there's like empty whippets on the ground. You see people like sitting in doorways like huffing lighter fluid or whatever the fuck, and you've got obviously heroin, and then you've got a big problem with alcohol here as well. It's quite easy to find used needles. Like you'll just be walking along, you'll see ones lying on the pavement and all that quite a lot.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's a lot of cities in America are like that too. Not with not a lot of inhalants like lighter fluid and shit, but like whippets, yeah, and a lot of used needles. I find those in my neighborhood a lot too. Yeah, I think that's kind of a common thing in a lot of city centers, is like addiction runs really heavy in urban areas, and I'm not that surprised to hear it's in Scotland too. What do you think? Let me see. So you think, I mean, heroin obviously is the biggest one, but like besides heroin and besides I guess like nitrous, what do you think the biggest, like, kind of not like addictive, but like the things that like teenagers do? What are the like party drugs that are like common there?
Probably MDMA, ketamine as well. Yeah, MDMA and ketamine are probably the biggest ones people do.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's what I hear from a lot of Europeans, is a lot of ketamine, which like surprises me because we just don't really have that here unless you pay exorbitant amounts of money. Have you ever tried ketamine?
Yeah, that was like the last thing I tried was ketamine, like last year, and then I've not tried anything else after that.
Yeah, you really only like smoke, and that's it, right? Like you really just smoke at this point.
Yeah, I just smoke and drink. No,
yeah,
I'm not really interested in anything else.
Which, I mean, that's good for you, man. Shit, I wish I could be like that. If I was, I'd be a lot more stable as a person. So I think that's really good for you, and I hope you stick to that shit.
Yeah.
Have you ever had like any kind of wild experiences when you've been out with friends or whatever, just partying or having a fun time?
I mean, not really. I don't really go out a lot, but like when I do, it's just like drinking and stuff. We don't really do a lot. We just sit and drink. Like, well, I live in quite a rural area, so there's never really a lot going on or anything.
Yeah, that's right. I think you told me about that. So, So, what do you think? Do you wish you could party more, or are you just kind of happy with that kind of quieter life? Do you ever wish you just kind of had a crazier, like MDMA rave-filled life, or are you just happy?
Yeah, I think I'm just happy with what I'm doing, because I don't really think I've got the energy to like go out and do all that. You know, I could go into Glasgow and do that if I wanted to, but I'm not really interested in it.
Yeah, I get that vibe. You're not the highest energy person, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. So like, what do you think, like, moving forward is your plan? I mean, I'm gathering that your plan is to just kind of stick to, you know, the things that you're doing right now. But are there any things that are out there that you kind of do still want to try? Like, is there any drugs out there that you just haven't gotten the chance to try, maybe that aren't in your area?
I don't know. I think maybe shrooms I'd try. I think 2CB as well. It's like more. Maybe I'd do more psychedelics, but I don't think I'd try anything else outside of that.
So you generally like psychedelics, and I'm gonna take a wild guess and say, so like, what draws you to that?
I don't really know. I really like tripping on acid. I just enjoy it, so I may as well try other things like that. I don't really have like a concrete answer. I just enjoy that.
Was it like a... I don't mean to just like prod on this question forever, but like, is it like more of a is it an enjoyment thing, or is it more like a, like, because there's some people that do it for like the, I don't want to, this, I hate saying this because it sounds so stupid, but it's like the spiritual journey and shit that some people have. Is it more like that for you, or is it just like a, oh, I want to have TV shows seem way cooler to me for a couple hours type thing?
Yeah, like more the latter for that.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in like spiritual shit and all that.
Have you ever had like a spiritual experience that you've had and it's just not really appealed to you, or is it just like you just don't really care that much about exploring that realm?
No, I don't really care about. I don't really care about it. I've not had any mental spiritual experiences in acid that like people have been talking about. It's just like colours are made vibrant and shit like that. I don't know. I've never had anything like that.
Okay, that's interesting. Oh, 1 second. Okay. So, let me see. I mean, we already have a lot. So I mean, if you don't want to continue, you don't have to at all. I don't want to like pressure you or anything. We like I like what we've gotten so far and shit. Yeah. So like, it's up to you if you want to continue or not.
I'm not really bothered. I can continue if you want. If you want more, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I would love to ask some more. Let me see. I just have to actually like think of something though. Here's a question. What do you think about like America in general? Because I mean, I know there's kind of like this. You know what I'm talking about when I say this. There's kind of this weird divide between the Europeans and Americans on the internet, and especially on like our little Discord circle. What do you like? Do you kind of like unironically fall into that whole like anti-America sentiment thing, or are you more of a, you know, just don't really care type person?
No, I mean, I don't care. It's just like, you know, I do find like some like things weird about America, like from where like you pay a lot for healthcare and stuff like that, but I don't hate Americans because they're American. You know, you've got like the stereotypes here, like all Americans are stupid and all that, but like I don't think they are. Like, you do get some stupid Americans, but like most of them, all the ones I've talked to are fine. I don't really see the problem with them. Like, just...
So, what do you think? What do you think about your own country? What do you think? What do you think are the problems with it? What do you think you would like if you were the ruler for a day of Scotland, just like the dictator of Scotland, right? What would you change about it if you had one day to make any change you wanted?
I don't really know. I'm fine with it now. It's just like there's a lot of problems than now. You know, like gas and electricity prices are way up. The just general cost of living is way up.
Yeah, it is here too. That's interesting.
The government, the cost of, I'll say, of gasoline is up a lot.
And that's completely reasonable. That's a huge problem. I think that's kind of just everywhere now. It's kind of started off, I thought it was only an America problem until I just started hearing everybody started saying like, oh, I can't fill up my car anymore.
Yeah. There's also a big thing now of people wanting Boris Johnson to resign because when he set the rules for lockdown, you're not allowed to have any social gatherings or anything like that. And while those rules are set, you weren't allowed to have any social gatherings and all that. Him and all his government mates were like having Christmas parties and getting drunk and all that. Well, we weren't allowed to see our family or friends if they didn't live in the same household. Just sort of thing, like if they've got to lie about that, and what else have they got to lie about when it comes to shit like that? A lot of people want them to resign and stuff.
How do you feel about that? Because I personally, I heard about that. I dug pretty deep into that, actually. I spent a couple nights just digging into a lot of the government COVID parties, because it went a lot deeper than Boris Johnson. It was a lot of officials that were just breaking their own rules. Yeah. How do you feel about that? Like, did that piss you off, or?
Yeah, it did, because, like, the lockdowns and stuff, I couldn't see, like, my friends or family for, like, I think it was like at least 2.5 months at the minimum. Well, like they're getting pished and all that. I just don't think it's right to, like, you set the rules. You need to follow them if you've set them.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. So lockdowns were bad for you, right? Like I know they were a lot more extreme in European countries for sure than they were in America, because over here we kind of just had like temporary ones for 1 or 2 weeks, then they would end, and we'd have like 1 or 2 of those little phases. But like, how bad were they over there? Like, were you really like stuck inside for months on end, or?
Yeah, it was really bad. Like I remember the date, the first lockdown came in the 23rd of March 2020, and I think it was like the end of July, mid-July, end of July, that we were like able to go and meet other family and friends, like not that didn't live in our house. So, like, at that time, like everything was closed, like every business and stuff, except like the ones like the supermarkets and stuff, but like everything else was closed, and you were only allowed to go to work if you worked in a hospital, or you're like a police officer, or any essential sort of things. You were only allowed to go to work, but everyone else was just stuck inside for months.
And do you feel like that kind of affected your levels of drug use? Do you think that, because I know you said that you were bored and that led you to do acid, which led you to join our drugs, funny enough?
Yeah, because like during then I was just like eating edibles and stuff most days, because I just didn't have anything better to do. Like every day it just sort of blended into one, because every day was the same. I'd wake up and just sit in front of my computer all day until I went to bed, and like sometimes I'd go out in the garden or whatever. Like there wasn't really anything else you could do.
Damn. Yeah, no, I relate to that really heavy, actually. I'm kind of in that situation right now. Just because I don't have shit to do, because a lot of my shit is fucked up right now because of COVID, funny enough. Yeah, I think that boredom really does play a large part in people's drug use, and I think that COVID kind of exacerbated that for a lot of people. And I've heard that from a lot of people. So that makes sense, and I think that a lot of people don't realize that maintaining normal social contact, regular social contact, and maintaining just a regular social life and being outside, being outdoors, just having a change in scenery every day really is important for human beings just in general. And when you cut that out and you make every day the same and you just deprive people of those normal dopamine hits that they're used to getting, then it really makes them crave like another way of getting that shit that they're used to getting. And I mean, one way to get that is drugs. So I think that's why we see so many more people, you know, using drugs now.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you think should have been done about COVID? Like, what are your thoughts on the whole situation? What do you think is like the right way that it should have been handled?
I mean, I don't really know. I mean, the lockdown would have been a good idea if Boris had done it sooner, because he waited way too late to start doing that. He waited till it already started spreading like fuck before he locked things down and closed airports and stuff. But I think if he'd done it earlier, it would have still been shit, but it wouldn't have lasted as long if he'd done it earlier. I remember laughing like at memes about COVID, like before it really got into the UK, and I was like, oh well, that's never got to affect here. It's just got to stay in China. You know, still fucking us up. Yeah,
I think we as human beings kind of have that part of us that always thinks like, oh, it could never happen to us. I think that happens a lot with like, especially with things like violent crime. Like we never think like, oh, I could never be a murder victim or a robbery victim, and then it happens to us, and it's like all of a sudden it's a serious thing to us. And I think that with COVID, it kind of gave people a wake up, like, oh, terrible things can happen to me. Like I'm a vulnerable human being. I can just die, and my whole life can be over all of a sudden. And I think that also kind of fucked with people a bit, because that's the first time. I think it kind of put all of humanity through a traumatic event, which has never really happened in our modern age before. I mean, we've had wars, but that's only affected like certain countries and shit. This is something that's happened, and it's affected like the entire world, where we've all gone through something. Like every single human being's been affected.
Yeah, it's like, I think COVID even got into North Korea.
Oh yeah.
I don't understand it.
And it's like, at that point, why are you even locking down? I mean, like, not to say that they shouldn't have locked down at first, but what's the point if it's getting into North Korea, and that's already a locked down state before the lockdowns were even a thing that happened in countries that weren't North Korea. So, you know.
Yeah, I think that's impressive. COVID got into North Korea. I'm trying to think, like, who went in.
Well, actually, North Korea does have some in and out. Just there's a lot of what's it called? There's a lot of I don't want to say spies, because that is the wrong word, but there's a lot of in and out of I guess diplomats is one way to put it, of nationals that come in and out through usually China, and China has had a huge COVID problem, so I'm gonna guess it came from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I seen this thing, and it was like videos of Chinese, I don't know, like army or whatever that was in, I think, Wuhan, and it's like, I think that's where COVID first started spreading. Like the Chinese, they were like welding people's like doors and stuff shut. Like, if they had COVID, it was a bit fucked to watch.
There's a whole in what is it? I think it's Shenzhen right now, in the Shenzhen province, and in a lot of the big cities right now are having huge issues because the government is going very hard with the lockdowns in China right now. Like they're doing what Europe was doing at the start of the pandemic right now, but like 20 times harder. They're still welding people into their homes, and there's a huge like rebellion movement going on right now, and it's interesting to watch. And I would encourage you to like look into it a little bit, because I think you'd be interested in it as somebody who's also suffered through the lockdowns and just seeing how bad that it's getting. And you know, it's important to be aware of that stuff, because you have to realize it can get that bad in our countries, because it's that thing that we were just talking about. It's like, you always think, oh, it won't be that bad here, but it really can be. You know, it really can get that bad. We can fall to that sort of tyranny very easily.
So even like when COVID was in the UK and what it was all shut and all that, I was like, I'll never end up getting COVID and I end up having it. And it's just like, if this, I don't know what to fucking say about it. It was just shit.
Yeah, I mean, my mom had COVID. Well, it was either 2 or 3 times, but one of the times was only about a month ago. I've had COVID probably twice now. I never actually, I think I tested positive for it once, but one time I probably had it because I was very sick and I don't know what it was. But yeah, that shit's terrible, man. I didn't die from it and my mom didn't die from it, thank God. I mean, that's, it'd be terrible, but I mean, yeah, that shit has affected a lot of people, and I mean, it's wild.
Yeah, I remember it was my dad, and he went to get vaccinated. I think he went to go get his first dose or whatever, and then like the day after that, that's when he tested positive. And I remember I tested positive for it, and it wasn't really affecting me that bad. It felt like I had a bit like a like really mild flu. But then I remember my dad, and like he was in bed for days with it.
Yeah, it seems like it really does scale with age. Like the older you are, the weaker your immune system is, the worse it gets, just by far. Because my mom has suffered through it much worse than me, and she's older than me. I mean, that's kind of obvious, but like she's older than me by a pretty good margin.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think, I don't know, man. I think that with it's always funny to say when COVID ends, because we used to say that in like 2020 and be thinking like, oh, it's going to end in a year, and well, look at us now. But I think that when COVID subsides to a point where it's just like not a thing that we talk about anymore, we're really going to look back on it, and I hope that we actually learn something from it. I hope that we actually take lessons from it, and we don't just shrug it off as like something that happened and we ignore it. Because I mean, like, what do you think we should learn from it? What do you think we should, like, what lessons do you think we should take away from everything that's happened? And what are you going to take away from it? What did you learn too?
I mean, like, I think it's just, I don't really know if I take anything from it. It's just like, it was a strange fucking time. Definitely, like, it's definitely like something if like cunts in the future are talking about the 20th century or the 21st century, sorry. It's definitely like a major point, because like so many people died from it. It's a really terrible thing. Yeah.
It is, yeah. Oh, hey, Bobbie, how's it going? Nice.
Bobbie.
Good to know.
Hello.
So,
Hey,
John, what let me see. What's one lesson that you've learned in the last year that you'd want people to know about? What's one thing that you've found out, either about yourself or about the world, just about anything that you want people to know about? What's just one thing you want to spread to the world?
I have nothing I want to spread to the world.
Nothing? Really?
He's gatekeeping.
Nothing.
Bro, I feel like, John, I'm gonna say this.
Not allowed to know.
This is my personal judgment, right? Just literally, this is just me, right? I feel like you are way smarter than you kind of like present yourself as sometimes, because you just don't say enough, when I feel like you have a lot of shit that you could say that you could really like teach people. Because you have an attitude that I feel like people could benefit from. Because I've seen people go through some of the shit that you've gone through and just totally collapse and like not be able to deal with their life anymore. Like, I know people that have gone through the lockdowns in Europe and get addicted to fucking like heroin and shit because of it, and like just had their lives destroyed because of some of the shit they've gone through. Like, how do you deal with it? How do you cope with the fact that kind of your life was just disrupted for years in a row? Like, what do you do to deal with that? How are you so calm about it?
I'm just like, I didn't really give a fuck about it. It was just like something that happened, and I was like 16 at the time, so I was just fine fucking sitting in the house the whole time, and again, it was really shit, like not being able to see any of my friends or anything at that point. Because I'd been used to seeing, like, my friends like every day, because I was still going to school at that point, and then just not being able to see them anymore, and like not being able to see your family as well was really terrible.
Didn't you or hold on, did you have a job when the pandemic started? Or I know you had a job at some point during the time that I knew you when we were in the main server together.
And no, I didn't have a job before the pandemic started because I was almost 16 at that point.
So it was like I know you were working at like some restaurant or something. When did that come in, and how is that, like, do you feel like that was good for you? Did that help you kind of recover from the impacts of just like getting back into the world?
I was just sort of, I needed money, so I got a job. There was nothing really more to it than that. It was just the lockdown, it didn't really affect me. I don't really have an answer to why it didn't, but like it was just something that happened. And then like even through like the second lockdown and the third lockdown in this country, I was just fine with the full thing. I don't know why I was. It was just fine.
I mean, shit, honestly, if it didn't affect you, that's number one, you're very lucky, but number two, that's just good for you in general, and you should be very grateful. Fuck. And I wish that I had your mindset of just being able to go through shit and not overthink it and not stress about it, because that's admirable.
Yeah, that's what I think of it. Like, shit happens. I may as well deal with it instead of not.
Yeah. I mean, it's like there's always this thing where it's like it's so simple to say, like, oh, just deal with it, or oh, just ignore it. You know, like it's like when people with depression are like crying and shit, and somebody's like, oh, just deal with it or whatever. It's like it's so much harder than that. But I mean, you know, sometimes you really do just kind of have to deal with something. You know, you can't just sit there crying about it all day. You have to move on with your life, and I think that you're a good example of what it's like to just keep on pushing and keep on moving on. And I think that that's something that people could learn from and people could actually take as a good example.
I think it was as well in lockdown as well. It was like, you know, it wasn't just me that wasn't allowed to go out or anything. It was the full fucking country. It was, so there was a lot more people, and they'd be doing the people in this country, they'd be doing these things every night. Like, everyone would go outside at 8 p.m. every night, and they'd clap for a minute with for the NHS and stuff, you know, like people that they're working in the hospitals, like trying to help people with COVID and stuff. I think I've seen videos, I think it was in Italy when that was locked down. I think that was locked down before the UK, and you'd see people like playing instruments on the balconies of their flats or whatever, and like other people would be joining in. I think it like brought people together in some way that like we were all in the lockdown together.
Yeah, I think I saw. I think I know exactly what video you're talking about in Italy. I saw that dude playing whatever instrument it was on the porch. I think that is also an example of people just kind of dealing with shit and moving on. Because I mean, that's people taking a terrible situation, a situation that just shouldn't be happening to them, an unfair situation, and just making the best out of it. So what do you think, do you think there's ever going to be kind of a, I mean, there was, how many lockdowns were there total? I know there was a lot in Europe. There was like multiple waves of lockdowns that kind of happened. Like they would let you out, then they would lock you back up. How many were there like total for you?
I think in the UK it was 3 lockdowns.
3. Do you think there's ever going to be another one?
I don't think so. I think the UK government's position on it now is it's just like COVID's just something we'll have to learn to live with, like the flu or something like that. I think they can't keep locking people down forever because people have got to get angry about that.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. I mean, and it's funny because that was the position a lot of people took at the beginning during like the first lockdowns. A lot of people were saying like we just need to learn to live with this because you can't just keep on locking everyone down, and that was kind of seen as like an extremist position, like a oh you don't care about people dying type position. And now it's the accepted position, which it's funny to see the goalpost kind of shift to that.
Yeah.
Well then, Jesus Christ, man, that was fucking it's very interesting for me to hear about the lockdowns in Europe because they're just so vastly worse than what we had over here. I mean, over here it was bad, but it was like weeks instead of months, and it was I could still go outside. I just couldn't go into like certain businesses, you know? Like I could go into they just locked down like downtown area, but I could still wander around my neighborhood and shit.
Yeah, you could. I think in this country you were allowed out, and it was quite funny. You were allowed out for like you were allowed out once a day for exercise. So I think it was like you were allowed out for an hour a day.
God,
like
fuck.
Or something.
That's worse than I thought it was, actually. I thought it was like you were allowed to just be in your little, like on your block or whatever, or just be around your house or whatever as much as you wanted. That's way worse than I thought it was.
Yeah, I don't know what like the plan was. Like if they caught you out going out for like 2 runs a day, I don't know. Like how did like keep people in check for that? So
put you in a crowded jailhouse. That'll work.
Yeah, like remember this country, there's like a lot of people like during lockdown, and they were like they'd have these like COVID raves, and people with COVID would go, and just like people would go and they'd spread COVID to all these people in this fucking rave. I don't know what the fuck the point was. Like
people act really weird when they're faced with situations that they don't know how to handle, like COVID, for example. Like people, like I think that we saw a lot of really weird shit coming out of the COVID situation, is because certain people have never really had situations in their life that are like extreme, you know? Certain people have lived very sheltered lives, and when they're faced with something that they just can't beat, they can't overcome by just throwing money at it or whatever, then they don't know how to act, and they start acting very irrational, which is why we have people like the girl who licked toilet seats on an airplane on video or whatever, like those types of people.
Yeah, I mind seeing that. Like even fuck.
Yeah, that was something else. And I mean, I don't think it's as big of an issue as the media made it, but I mean, I do think that was pretty wild, and I think it's indicative of just kind of the mental state that that can happen to you, or that you can fall victim to in those sort of situations.
Yeah, COVID really didn't affect me. I just lived my life normally.
Yeah, because you just sat at home on Discord anyway, Bobbie. Fuck's sake. Bobbie, what do you think? What do you think you could ask John? You have any questions for him as a Scotsman?
No, just hi, John.
Hi.
Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Hypnos, you got any more questions? Because I'm pretty much out. That was really good. I got like a lot of actual information out of that I'm going to be like thinking about.
Nothing really. Everything really condensed into that whole like COVID discussion, and that was really interesting to hear.
Yeah, that was great.
Especially his viewpoint on it from.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear other people's point of views, and I think it's fucking. I think the most important thing, and what I actually do kind of hope to, because I mean, we are literally just degenerates, as the name implies, on Discord, but like I do think that it's important to hear actual people's point of view instead of corporations and media conglomerates' point of views on what's happening in the world, and that's why I think it's important to interview people and just hear what they think is happening in the world and what their take is on it, because I think that we need to hear more from people and less from corporations. And that's why I like doing these interviews so much, and that's why I want to do more of them, and that's why I kind of have such an interest in. That's why I'm willing to do shit like stay up all night editing, like I did last night for that video. You know, I really do have a kind of a passion for this beyond just fucking around and making slightly racist jokes on the internet. You know, I really do enjoy this, and I thank you, John, for as gay as it sounds, for actually like giving me some insight.
You're welcome.
Well then, that was really good. I'm gonna stop here. I really thank you for that. I'm gonna edit this and I'm gonna put it up, and it's gonna be a banger.
Okay, I'm gonna go be an NPC again. Oh, I'm gonna leave.
Android 17.
Alright, man.